Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Bowman, Mr. Mercado's here, Mr. Dawson, Mrs. Downs, Mr. Caderas, Mr. Kurtz.
Here.
Mr. Natale.
Here.
Mr. Strollo, Mr. Tedisco, Ms. Blake.
Here.
Mr. Hilsinger.
Here.
Mr. Selmont. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Commission Public, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first order of business tonight is application for subdivision on behalf of Pinnacle Land Development. They are 679 Mountain Road. Can we hear the call for that, please?
Application for a subdivision on behalf of Pinnacle Land Development, LLC. Applicant Helen Biss, Al, owner. Applicant is requesting a subdivision of property creating 4 lots of the property located at 679 Mountain Road, Assessor Map 69, Lot 18, Zoned R80.
Thank you. And representing the applicant tonight.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Anthony Fazzone. I'm an attorney here in Cheshire, representing the applicant this evening. As the call of the meeting indicates, this is an application for a 4-lot subdivision. It is under the regular standard provisions for subdivisions in the town regulations. It is not a cluster subdivision or anything of that nature, and all lots are required to meet the minimum requirements for a subdivision in the R80 zone. On July 18th, 2023, the application received Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission approval, and a report of that approval has been received by the Planning and Zoning Commission and is in the file. With that, I'm just going to turn it over to Ryan McAvoy to go through the subdivision itself.
Good evening. For the record, my name is Ryan McAvoy. I'm a licensed professional engineer with SLR Consulting. And I know some people in the audience might be interested in this application, so I'd like to, with the chairman's permission, rotate this display a little bit so that hopefully more people can see.
John, if you want to move down, or I don't bite.
The application is for, as Anthony mentioned, a 4-lot subdivision in the R80 zone at 679 Mountain Road. The subject parcel is about 85 acres in size, a fairly large piece on the west side of Mountain Road, just south of the Higgins Road, Mountain Road intersection. On this particular aerial map, what you have is Mountain Road at the bottom, running from south to north, with north to the right. Higgins Road is just off to the bottom of the sheet, or to the east. And the portion of the property, and I'm referring to the portion of the property that is most applicable to this particular application, being the area immediately along Mountain Road. The property is highlighted with this yellow line, and it goes well beyond what you see on this map. Again, 85 acres plus or minus in total. And the majority of the site is dominated by the ridgeline, rising up from an elevation of roughly 160 at nearby wetlands and ponds and streams located in the south of the property, all the way up to Prospect at an elevation of like 650. So there's a very significant slope to the west, a very significant wetland in the center of the property, roughly 25 acres in size, with a stream running from north to south through the property. That stream eventually connects with Roaring Brook, eventually to Willow Brook. And there is a portion of the property, roughly 4 acres or so, from the wetlands to Mountain Road that is relatively flat, and it is dry, upland areas. And that's where we're proposing our lots, and we're proposing development of those lots. In this particular portion of the site, we range in elevation from about 184 at Mountain Road down to ranging from 164 to 168 at the elevation of the wetlands, shown here in blue. Presently, in this portion of the lot, there is one single-family house located roughly center in the sheet. That house is unoccupied at the moment, is sort of overgrown, and there used to be a more significant lawn area, landscape area, but right now it's sort of an overgrown state. Mountain Road does include public water, although there is no public sanitary sewer. So what we're proposing, very simply, are 4 lots with houses located all along Mountain Road. Each lot is sized to meet the minimum standards of the R80 zone. Lots 1, 2, and 3 from south to north are just over 80,000 square feet in size, roughly 200 feet in width, 400 feet in depth, meeting minimum standards of the R80 zone. Lot 4, the furthest to the north, will contain the balance of the property, roughly 80 acres. Although, as you can see, what we're looking to develop, shown here in light green and where the house is again located along the frontage of Mountain Road. The wetlands, stream corridor, floodplain, et cetera, along with the steep slopes to the rear, represent a really significant barrier to future development of the lot. So what we're showing for this lot of 80 acres really is, again, one single-family house, frontage on Mountain Road, all development areas of the lot along Mountain Road. As I mentioned before, public water is available, but we do provide for septic systems on site. And in your packet, we do have approval from Chesbrokot Health District for the feasibility of the primary and reserve septic areas. We also mitigate any increases in runoff from the development with rain gardens from each lot, which will have roof runoff directed to it, in some cases driveway runoff as well. And these rain gardens are located in soil suitable for infiltration, and they're sized to attenuate and infiltrate any increases in runoff up to the 100-year storm. In terms of topography, we're not looking to do any significant earthwork with these lots. We're using the topography as it exists today, with walkout basements in certain lots to take advantage of any changes in topography, again, with as minimal grading as possible, and clearing only as needed to grade out the lot, install the septic system, house, driveway, et cetera. In terms of the limitations of the property with respect to the wetlands, we have received wetlands approval, and in general, our site has clearing limits outside the 50-foot upland review area. We did receive approval for a small amount of clearing within the upland review area on Lot 1, but there are no impacts to wetlands and only a very minor area of grading in the upland review area. Again, approval being granted a couple weeks back. In terms of sightlines, each driveway has adequate sightlines with a minimum of 515 feet looking in any direction from any particular driveway. And they all, for the most part, have completely unvegetated or unlimited sightlines due to topographic changes in Mountain Road. It's really just limitations of curvature in the road further to the south. So with that, I hope the commission finds this application as straightforward as we believe it to be. Again, standard residential subdivision in the R80 zone. All lots conform to the standards. And we did receive comments from Regional Water Authority, which basically they take no exception to the design as proposed. And engineering also had one minor comment with regards to inlet protection on existing catch basins within Mountain Road, which we take no exception to. Mr. Comment also did suggest that there's available additional land on Lot 4, in particular next to a 25-foot strip that the town owns, to large tracts of open space to the north of the property. Any granting of land to the town or anything like that is not really part of this application at the moment. Essentially that summarizes the extent of his comments. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I'm sure that the public has questions as well.
You indicated that it would be a challenge for future development. Are you anticipating no future development?
Nothing is part of this application. I mean, really, the R80 zone only allows for single-family residential development with some minor potential home occupations and things of that nature. So any development beyond what we show would be very challenging, to say the least.
Will it become landlocked with the way you're doing the 4 lots in the front of the property?
So Lot 4 actually extends with a narrow, maybe 80-foot corridor here around into the back with a 50-foot strip out here. So Lot 4 actually rings around lots 1, 2, and 3. But no part of this property would be landlocked, at least on paper. When I say on paper, meaning with access to frontage of a town road. However, there is a very vibrant and expansive wetland corridor that exists through the central portion of this property. To get from here over to the other side, you have to cross through that wetland corridor, which is daunting.
South of that 50-foot strip, who owns that lot above that?
Over here,
No, where you were, but higher.
over
Yeah,
here.
all that. Who owns all that property?
This is all part of Lot 4. Lot 4 will come all the way out towards me. And it probably another several hundred feet, or at least a dozen inches off this paper if I were to expand it. Although if I did that, this wouldn't really have any relevance because it wouldn't pop out.
What are the green areas between each? It's not clear on the sketches.
Oh, it's just an area with some vegetation that can remain between the lots. It's really just, it's our attempt to, if there is any significant trees, it'd be nice to keep them. We don't have to clear across the whole thing, but it really depends on the nature of, what's in these little corridors, because we do have grading, we do have septic systems.
And
et
just
cetera.
above the 50 feet there, that's on Mountain Road to the left. Nope, your left.
Oh,
There
okay.
you go.
Right here?
Yeah, right above that.
Yep.
Where's the wetlands?
Oh, this blue line here represents the limit of the wetlands,
Okay.
and they keep going. They keep going pretty.
So it's not
significant.
buildable right there.
It's not what?
Buildable.
Oh, absolutely not.
I'm sorry, what?
One thing that I would like to add to is that the Wetlands Commission did include a non-encroachment line as part of their approval that exists along the limit of disturbance adjacent to the wetlands and does allow for a small incursion in the 50-foot upland review area, but we will be delineating this boundary with marker posts that the Wetlands Commission typically requires.
So lot 4 is going to be 70 something acres,
About 80,
80 acres.
plus or minus. Seem more reasonable to keep it with one lot than try to divide it up somehow between all 4.
So where else on this property is there buildable acreage, or is that it?
Well, if the federal government totally eliminates any and all laws with regard to wetland crossings and stream crossings, the town eliminates their regulations, and the state does the same. Perhaps there's some area back here that could be developed. I don't know. It's very steep once you get past that stream. It's like 400 feet of grade change, 500 feet of grade change, 20-30% slopes. I wouldn't even want to walk it.
Just to ask the question, why wouldn't you just cut off lot 4 and keep the access to the 70 something acres as far to that south area on to the left of lot 1?
It's a possibility. Our thought was to keep, rather than have a separate lot for that extra acreage, just keep it with one of the lots in front. That was just the logic we applied. Instead of having a lot that's undefined, whether it's a building lot or, when you go through a subdivision process that, it's the burden of us to show if a lot is buildable or not. And an unbuildable or non-buildable 79-acre piece of land probably opens up more questions than anything else.
Well, why wouldn't you do that on lot 1 instead of bringing it way over to 4?
There's really no no reason. It's just stayed with one of the lots. Could have gone with 2, 3, 4, or 1.
Any other commission members with questions? Yeah, I want to hear the public too. So, Anthony, you all set? Is there anything else you want to do? I'm not cutting you off. I just know the public, I'm sure, is going to have a lot of questions. So,
At this point in time,
nothing else? Okay. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, ask questions on this application, please just need you to come up to the mic. I need your name and address for the record and ask away.
Yes, my name's Steve Winfield. I live on 85 Cherry Street in center of town. One thing that I'm very concerned about, I have two points to make, is that there's a Mystic Reservoir there that is not showing on this map.
There's a what? I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
Mystic Reservoir,
Okay.
which is precious water that is going to be the next oil. But that's me putting that in. Has that been looked into at all with these septic tanks? That
Did you guys said you had septic approval, Chesprocot approval? I would assume that if Chesprocot did their job, and yes, they should have researched that.
Well, it bothers me that you say you assume.
Well, I mean, Chesprocot does many of these in town.
Well, it makes
so
me ask, how long have you had this in front of you?
this particular application,
Yes.
about 7:30 this morning, or this afternoon, I'm sorry. When this is the first time that we've heard and seen this application.
Okay, so you're not going to vote on it tonight?
I don't know. It just depends on how.
I would like you to
questions?
take a look at that and look at the reservoir and how that is, the perk tests, everything that needs to happen.
Okay. Do we have comments from Chesprocot in our packets?
Yes, there are comments in the back.
We also have comments from the Regional Water Authority, who we notified as part of the fact that this is located within a public water supply watershed. And they, they're the stewards of the watershed, and they did not note any particular concerns relative to this development. In fact, they stated in their review that we meet their, minimum standards for development of this sort.
Can you explain to me what a Mystic Water, Mystic
Reservoir.
Reservoir is? I've never heard that term before.
Sir,
It's-
Winfield was,
It's on the map,
no, we don't know what it is. Mystic
reservoir.
Reservoir.
It's a watershed for the town to pull water from. And I'm surprised you don't know that.
Never heard that term.
Are they currently pulling water from there now?
I'm sure other houses around the area are.
But not the town. You said the town is pulling water from,
Okay, I'm going to use that assume word, but I need you guys to look at that very closely because this is something very,
and all
Precious
I
to our
said about
town.
Chesprocot is they're the experts in this, and so is the.
yeah, I would like you to read that. I'm hearing this guy just say, and I don't mean anything wrong about this.
Okay. you
I
said you
would
had-
want, you guys are there to read this,
Mhm.
and I don't want this to be pushed through without somebody really looking at this.
Okay, you said you had another
On
question. too?
Who's our representatives?
And you said you had another question also. You said there was two.
Well, the question is how long you've had it
Oh, okay,
on your
sorry.
docket, and you're talking 7:30 this morning. I'm sure
Staff,
you
no,
guys,
when the
you
meeting
guys
started,
haven't
it's the
even
first
looked
time.
through all this, I'm sure, and that's fine. What I'm asking is that you do look at it before you make the decision.
Thank
Just
you.
want to add to what the chairman said. We receive a packet with all the information from Chesprocot, from the fire district, from the other our regional water authority prior to the meeting, not just at 7:30 tonight. So we do get it days in advance so that we can review it prior to the meeting, and we do rely on their expertise.
I heard the word assume. I don't know.
But I think
The assume comment was made by me, and it was made because Chesprocot, that's what they do. They go over this stuff. They're the professional. I can't have you speak unless you come back up to the mic. You're asking us to look at everything, and I understand what you're saying. Maybe I shouldn't have said assume, but they do this with many of applications, and they're the experts on the infield and whatever else they're looking at, and they let us know.
And I get that. I really appreciate Chesprocot. I really do. But I want you to read this to see if there's anything in there than having a person come up here who has money involved in this.
Who's also an expert
Yeah,
also, but.
Fine,
that's-
but he's going to make something on this. You're here to represent us. Thank you.
You want to address any of those, Mr. Fasone?
I do. The entity in the town that has jurisdiction over septic systems and whether or not a building permit can be issued for the construction of a home on these properties is Chesprocot. And they are required to give you a report. And they have given you a report. Perk tests have been done under Chesprocot's supervision. These lots will require engineered systems, and they will be re-perked at that time and test holes done. But for purposes of this application, your regulations require that you obtain a feasibility report from Chesprocot telling you whether or not it is feasible to have septic systems with reserve areas on these lots. It is an R80 zone. That's a 2-acre zone. And there apparently, according to Chesprocot's report to you, there's plenty of room on these lots for not only the system, the primary system, but a reserve system. Subsequently, when the applicant goes for a building permit, they'll have to have an engineer's certificate and an engineered design system. And the building inspector will be the authority to determine that that meets the state building code.
Thank you. Anyone else from the
And I
public?
would like to add that these regulations are here also for the protection of the landowners and gives the landowner the right to subdivide his or her property in accordance with the regulations, meeting the state standards in the state building code.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak, ask questions on this?
Good evening. I'm Karen Schnitzer, SCHNITZER. I'm at 18 Currier Place in Cheshire. And I just want to make a comment. It concerns me when we have applications and they meet the minimum, but they don't do anything more than that. If this were a college class, and you went to the professor and said, gee, what is the minimum I need to do to pass this course? The professor would say, read this book, read these 3 articles, write 1 paper, and come to 25% of my classes. And you would do that and you would pass, but you would get a D. You would not get an A. So when we always just meet the minimum standards, there's always room for improvement. And that's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wishing to come up and speak?
Joy Vanderlack, 160 Brook Lane. I spoke last time about my concerns about the wetlands. I spoke about the original intent of the town, and I agreed with Cheshire Land Trust at that time about the original intent with the Western Greenbelt, what the vision was way back when with Jean May, when the town was setting aside spaces, open space for wildlife, recreation, etc. So I'm not going to talk about that. Instead, let me ask this. You had mentioned something about a set aside to go with, I can't remember the amount of space that the town already has for access on that one end. What might be added to it, or is there a guarantee with development what would be added to it for access for people to get to the back?
I believe it was a comment by our town engineer that said it would be nice to, if a portion of, I believe it would be lot 4 would be given to the town. I think that's what he asked, the engineer.
Correct.
And from what was stated, that there was no deal in place.
So there was no deal, no number, none of that.
From what I heard tonight, this is the
Okay.
first.
I would like that to be, if we're going to develop this piece, unfortunately, and I know it doesn't concern this particular topic, but with Ben's Homestead, we were supposed to have parking so that we could get access to the state lands and get up to the ridge for hikers and have an alternate to Roaring Brook, and that, which unfortunately did not happen. I would like to have some kind of commitment from the developers, if this does go through, that perhaps they do set aside an amount and what that amount would be, so that we can have some kind of access to what the town and the public, rightfully owns. There is no parking, yeah. I mean, that's also awful, but it is what it is. So that was my one thing. The other thing is, and I don't mean to be rude, but I think we're past the point of where, when you're doing things that are this important for the town, that you have like a high school board to show to us. It should be seen so that we can see it in detail on an overhead, because this is just, it's not right. It's not fair to the townspeople to have to crane our necks and not even know what you're talking about. So I'd appreciate, going forward, if we could make it standard procedure to have an overhead where we can see what's going on, and maybe also have something online to go with these kind of things, so people can actually get a sense of what's going on with each of these properties. And thank you.
You're more than welcome to, take a look at any of the maps that are up here. We're not trying to keep anything from you.
Yeah, my point is, it's probably a wonderful map, but most of us can't see it sitting way back there. It would be much better if it's up on an overhead, it's detailed and we could see it, and even better to have it online so that we can see beforehand all these proposed changes. And I don't think that's asking a lot. I think that's just being fair, so we can make some judgments.
Yeah, it's also, everything's available at the town planning office, that anyone can
As I
stop by
said,
at any time.
thank you for listening. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
Hi, my name is Laura Corbo, and I live on Tress Road. My husband and I own a large tract of land on the ridge. And I was just wondering if the person who buys lot 4, will they be able to subdivide? And how many homes?
They can answer that question again. Do you want to take that now? You want to take it afterwards? I think he did say something about it was very steep property and things would have to change, but I'd rather him answer the question than me.
The honest answer is I'm not sure, but the reality is probably none. We only looked at this with respect to development along Mountain Road because, again, as I mentioned, there's a 25-acre wetland corridor that separates this part of Mountain Road to the ridgeline. There is FEMA floodplains within that corridor. Once you get to the other side of the corridor, it's extraordinarily steep. So whether or not I can't imagine, to the best of my knowledge right here on the spot, how you would do that. It's impractical.
I'd also like to point out that any attempt to create additional lots would have to go back before the Inland Wetlands and Watercourse Commission and would have to come before this commission for re-subdivision approval and overcome the obstacles that Mr. McAvoy has talked about with respect to the topography and the extensive significant wetlands.
Public, anyone else from the public?
Fiona Pearson, Pearson, 100 Strathmore Drive. I would just like to reiterate the request regarding an expansion of the public easement that currently exists on the north side of the property on Lot 4. That would provide us potentially in the future with access to the open spaces owned by the town, which is then connected to open space that's owned by the Cheshire Land Trust and by the Regional Water Authority, and that connects with state land, that connects with the trail along the ridge. If we were to ever have the possibility of gaining access, there used to be a kiosk there that provided access. It's wetlands, there's a river, so it's difficult to access the green space back there. But to provide that opportunity for the future, for future residents, is something that I would like for us to think about now, rather than closing off those options as we have in other properties in town. We have open spaces around town that we don't have access to. And it would be good for us to at least provide that opportunity in the future that connects to Roaring Brook Falls. So again, I would just like to reiterate that request that we consider expanding that easement if possible, even if the developer would work with us, with the town engineer, with our town employees. Thank you.
Was there any, well, I'll ask a question. Was there any talk about that comment? I mean, is it in the works? I know we cannot make you do anything like that, but just curious if there was any talk.
There has been no significant talk with respect to that. And I think that this is really not the venue for that to be done and for that discussion. And as I've stated, it's not a cluster subdivision. There may be ex post facto open space here because of the nature of the land and trying to access or build on the slopes that are there, but really not in a position to comment upon whether or not the town is interested in acquiring that at this point.
And they just have a strip there now? Is that what I see on the map?
Yeah.
There's nothing like a trail or anything there, right? It's just a portion of property that they own.
Right. There's an access point to the ridge at the end of Cornwall Avenue Extension, I recall. The one at Cornwall Avenue Extension is the one I recall where there's access to go all the way up into Prospect.
Okay. Anyone else from the public? I hear some people speaking if they want. Just got to come up to the mic. And unfortunately, it's the rules.
Can I bring the mic to her?
You can bring the mic to her, of course. Yeah.
Cordless.
Joy Vanderleck, 160 Brook Lane. The Cornwall access was cut off at the time that Ben's homestead was developed. So now we have to go up to Prospect in order to access the ridge and also the lower trail that runs along the base by the new development. There is an access point at Beechwood, maybe Beechwood. However, it's not marked and it's not cleared. That is the bottom trail at the base, though. There is no other access, and the only parking is on street. Thank you.
What is this access? Now that I have you with the mic, the one that we see on the map here that says that's owned by the town. What is the access there?
That's to go to the lower trails,
Okay,
which goes to the left, and I think some people might be more familiar with that. There's a lower trail at the base, and Beechwood is the way to get in there now since the Cornwall one was shut down. And that little kiosk at Higgins, nobody even knows it's there since the kiosk is down. And
So you have access there now, is what I'm trying to say.
If you're about if you're about this wide and you go sideways, yes, and you don't need transportation and you walk there. And there are still no trespassing signs everywhere, which on the Higgins one and also behind on that lower on the base trail from neighbors that have just put it up at will. So that is a good point too, to have those taken down. Thank you.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak?
Good evening. My name's Stephanie Diorio. I live at 644 Mountain Road, which is significant because it's right on the corner of Higgins and Mountain where this development is proposed. I'm a little concerned about the two houses that are closest to Higgins Road. That corner, that three-way intersection, just has stop signs. There is a significant amount of traffic there, and personally, I'm able to notice that the stop signs become kind of questionable as the day goes on. So as we know, Mountain Road is somewhat of a connector for a lot of main roads, and therefore people tend to speed through it trying to get somewhere else. I don't think they're Cheshire residents. I don't think they realize that this is a residential neighborhood because the way it connects a lot of our town, there's a propensity for just people using it when Route 10 is backed up. Is there going to be any sort of traffic mitigation? I know the police are really stretched thin right now. We see them there all the time, pulling people over for speeding, for running the stop sign on like almost a bi-weekly basis. So if this development happens, those extra driveways right at Higgins, they're very close to that intersection. And it just makes me a little apprehensive about what additional kind of issues it could bring for traffic. Thanks.
Do you guys want to tackle I know you said something about sightlines. We're all good, but if you want to answer that one would be great.
So we did look at sightlines from the proposed driveways, and in particular, let's go with the northernmost lot 4. And that from that driveway location, you can see well past the stop sign, probably, I would guesstimate about 800 feet just because it was so far that I didn't even measure it. You can see well beyond that intersection, well beyond up to Mountain Road to the north. And looking to the south, the worst case scenario to the south is actually lot 1 because there's a horizontal curve in Mountain Road. And in that particular driveway, you could see about 525 feet, which would be considered a safe intersection on a commercial location for almost 50 miles an hour. Certainly that exceeds any reasonable standard for a 25-mile-an-hour road. I do understand the concern about the amount of traffic on Mountain Road and the speeds at which cars do go, but I can tell you that all 4 driveways have excessively safe sight lines coming out of them. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Scott Ellis, 100 Strathmore Drive in Cheshire. And I'd like to add to the conversations about the points about access to the trail. I am the volunteer trail manager of the Quinnipiac Trail, which runs right along the Prospect Ridge. And Cheshire owns property up there. And this property that is under discussion tonight, if we can get some access up to the trail for passive recreation for Cheshire residents to get up to that trail, that would be a benefit to the town and the townspeople. So I'd like to ask the committee just to take a look, because there are a lot of questions about the upper trail, which I manage, and the lower trail, and how Cheshire residents can get to it. And this would be a relatively I say easy, I don't know how easy, but a straightforward way to get up to that trail to allow for some hiking and passive recreation for Cheshire residents. So if we can get some clarification about how to do that, and if we can work with the developer to make that happen, that would benefit the development and the townspeople as well.
I understand your comment. I understand how it might be good for the townspeople, but as this body is concerned, we cannot ask for them to give up a portion of their property, whether we think it's right or not think it's right. It's not part of our decision, unfortunately. We also can't ask for the town. I mean, I don't know if the town would even accept something. I'm sure they probably would because of our town engineer has asked for it. But the situation, if there's a lawyer up here that can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's private property and we cannot ask for them to, we'll give you the approval if you give them. It's not something that this body can discuss or ask of. I'm sure I agree with you. If there's anything that could be done to, make it a better access for the town's property, of course, we'd all like to see that. But as far as where we are, hands are tied. We cannot ask for that. Anyone else from the public? Mr. Natale?
So roughly 80 acres is going to be tied to lot 4, wrapping up around and coming back down. I've heard that might be impossible or unlikely or not probable due to the wetlands and the topography to subdivide or build other dwellings there. Why keep that 50-foot access? Why keep the 50-foot access next to lot 1? If there's no plans to further develop it, or if it's improbable or unlikely because of the topography and the wetlands?
I don't think it's part of this application for us to tell the town to take this 50 feet for access.
I'm not saying for the town taking, I'm asking, why is that just not part of that other lot, lot 1? Why is 50 feet?
Over on lot 1, I misunderstood what you were asking.
I think what he's asking is lot 4, where lot 4 connects with the.
There's an AT&T easement through there. I just thought it'd be easier, better to keep lot 1 unencumbered by an easement.
Where the easement is, a 50-foot easement for AT&T?
It's right here.
No, it's probably about 25 feet. It's probably about 25 feet, as shown in dashed lines here.
So why not just keep 25 feet for the AT&T easement and close up the rest of it?
Good. Again, there's 1,000 ways to slice up 80 acres into 4 lots. It just was a thought to keep this easement off the property. There was no need to go that far over. That was just, it was a artistic license, I guess.
It just seems like 50 feet would be ideal if there were to be future development.
Well, also, I kept in consideration the fact that this is 80 acres. If there were ever to be some opportunity to create open space or to do anything like that, maybe this could be a point of access. I don't know. There was a few different thoughts in my head. I could have closed it up. It didn't really make any difference to the development of this lot. This area is wetlands. It does have an easement through it. There wasn't really any thought put into it for development purposes. It just seemed like a unnecessary part of the lot.
So going back to what I said originally a little while ago. So for that 50 feet, if you wanted to put a road or a trail or something going through there, you would immediately hit the wetlands?
That's correct. The wetlands are right here. You'd have to cross 200 feet of wetlands or more, some of which is a pond. And floodplain.
Okay, if the public's all set, Mr. Vazone, did you have anything else to add? Closing remarks?
No, we do not have anything else to add.
Okay.
Thank you.
As far as the public hearing, I mean, I again ask the public if there's anything else they want to bring up. I mean, it's a 4-lot subdivision on 80 acres. Unless someone here tells me I'm wrong, I think we're going to close the public hearing. It's a 4-lot subdivision on 80 plus acres. There's been No safety concerns. There's been no concerns from Chespercott, no concerns from the water company. I don't see why we hold it open. So I will ask one more time, is there anyone from the public that wants to speak on this application? Okay, thank you. I'm going to close the public hearing. Moving on, application special permit of Phil Bowman, care of Ryan E. Thompson, for a rear lot subdivision on the Lexington Court. Can we hear the call for that, please?
Application for special permit on behalf of Phil Bowman, applicant. Ryan E. Thompson, agent. Applicant is requesting a special permit pursuant to Section 30 of the zoning regulations and Section 5.5 of subdivision regulations to construct a rear access driveway for the property locating at Lexington Court. Assessors map 35, lot 122, map 35, lot 42.
Good evening. I'm Ryan Thompson. I'm a licensed professional engineer and land surveyor based out of Clinton, Connecticut. And this property has already been subdivided and it has already been given wetlands approval. The only thing we're seeking tonight is approval for the construction of a rear access drive. There were some comments by the planner that have been addressed. They were just basically to show a little more silt fencing, call out the shoulders, the aggregate shoulders, make sure that it meets the width that's in this standard, which is here on the detail, and put a construction entrance and et cetera. All of the comments have been addressed. And I'll leave it to your questions.
Do you know if this was done years ago and then as the permit has run out? Because I remember this piece. I remember the I can't remember if it was 2 lots or 1 lot, but I remember something in this area that happened years and years ago.
Yeah, the subdivision creation was done quite some time ago. I don't remember exact date. Let's see.
It was after the subdivision was complete. They came in for a rear lot.
Yeah, in
It just doesn't matter.
2017.
I remember it. I remember approving something like this, and it almost seems like the same thing.
I believe it is exactly the same thing, but I don't think there was never a special permit approved for the rear access. All the rest of it got approved. So it's literally, we're just requesting the rear access. It's the same 2 lots that were already approved. No changes there.
Commission questions?
Yeah, it looks like there's a cul-de-sac there. Can that be extended into the lot? I don't know what's on it. I can't see in the image if there's lots that can get extended into also.
No.
It's not a cul-de-sac. It's just the required turnaround at the end, the 25-foot radius turnaround.
So there's a property owner in between. I think it's Corey Village that owns in between there. I tried to get across that property for my house.
Oh.
And unless you get Corey Village's property, it just sort of ended there. And it is a little weird that there's nothing else there. But I wanted to be on the top of Moss Farms Road years ago, and there was no deal to be made. So
Got it.
they don't own the property. And I believe they could bring more houses off of there, but I don't know if they can develop it because Corey Ridge, not Corey Ridge, but Corey Village is probably built out. But so, yeah, that's kind of, it's a weird little cul-de-sac, and that's why it's there. Any other questions? No? Anyone from the public? No? All right. I'm also going to close this public hearing. Thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Moved by Mr. Kaderis, second by Mr. Natale. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Moving right on. If I could find it. I'd like to call to order the Planning and Zoning Commission regular meeting for Monday, July 24th, 2023. Can I get a motion to accept the minutes from the public hearing and regular meeting from July 10th, 2023?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kaderis, seconded by Mr. Mercado. Sorry. Any discussion, comments, anything in the minutes? No. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? and one abstention. Motion carries 501. Any communications to come before us tonight?
No communications.
No communications. Okay. 679 Mountain Road. How do you guys feel? Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Can we hear the motion for 679?
Motion to approve application for a subdivision on behalf of Pinnacle Land Development LLC, applicant Helen Biss et al., owner. Applicant is requesting a subdivision of the property creating 4 lots of the property located at 679 Mountain Road, Assessors Map 69, Lot 18, Zone R80. The approval is based on plans titled 679 Mountain Road Subdivision, prepared by SLR with revision date of April 26, 2023. The commission finds that based on the information provided, that the applicant demonstrated compliance to the Cheshire subdivision regulations.
Move Mr. Picado, second by Mr. Kaderis. Discussion on this motion.
Yes. I know one gentleman spoke about the Mystic Reservoir or whatever that is there. There's houses that are just as close to that area, just south of that. Never heard any complaints. That no one brought up that it's contaminating anything. So I feel there's Chespercott did his job in this case, and that's safe to build there.
Okay. Any other comments? Straightforward subdivision. 4 lots on 80 acres. A little weird, but I see no issue with it at all. So all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Lexington Court seems like an easy one. You guys are everyone all right with that? Can we hear the motion for Lexington Court, please?
Motion to approve application for special permit on behalf of Phil Bowman, applicant Ryan E. Thompson. Agent applicant is requesting a special permit pursuant to Section 30 of the zoning regulations and Section 5.5 of the subdivision regulations to construct the rear access driveway for the property located at Lexington Court, Assessors Map 35, Lot 122, Map 35, Lot 42. The approval is based on plans titled Site Development Plan Lexington Court Subdivision, prepared by RCL Thompson LLC with a revision date of 7/19/2023. The commission finds that based on the information provided, that the applicant demonstrated compliance to the Cheshire subdivision and zoning regulations. The approval is subject to the following conditions. Final plan shall incorporate the following modifications. Identify 6-foot gravel shoulders as required by zoning regulations for access drive. Note the treatment for the proposed access driveway. Clearly identify erosion and sediment control measures for project. Add crushed stone pads at the outlets for footing drains to prevent long-term erosion from the development.
Moved by Mr. Ricardo, second by Mr. Kaderis. Discussion on this motion. Very straightforward. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Any new business to come before us tonight?
No.
Okay. I have a comment too, but Mr. Talley, go ahead.
Per the application for Mountain Road, a couple of residents brought up no trespassing signs that are being put up on the properties up there. Can we do something just to make sure that that it's on their property? They're not trying to block access to either the easement or the trail.
There's nothing visible from the street. There used to be a no trespassing sign there for years, and there was a fence on the right of way, but that's not there anymore. And the only other no trespassing signs are on the Biss property, just to keep everyone off of that. I can take a walk through and see if the property owner has put more up, but there's nothing visible from the street line.
I think they were talking about Beechwood too.
Beechwood, there is a no trespassing sign that is, I had moved off the paper roadway that is the right-of-way access into the back. I had them move that no trespassing sign over to their property.
Okay.
So it is on their property.
Gotcha. And I don't remember, at the end of Cornwall Avenue Extension, was there supposed to be access up there? Do you remember?
There's a.
It'll be in the minutes if,
Some right of way up there that.
Oh, that's right.
There was some kind of right of way for something else, something. mechanical
was
that we
gaslight?
would allow.
Was it a fire?
No, it was telephone. Or
Yeah, I think they did cut off the town's access to it. I remember something, that we could check the minutes, but
It was
it was cut off. Yeah.
because we looked for that when we found the paper road off of Beechwood for the public to gain access to the back ridge.
Okay. And again, I just want to make sure that whatever access is supposed to be there is there.
And the copperheads, yeah. On another note, I saw Jerry Barker's animation over the weekend. He's having some event at his place. I don't have all the details I do, but I will get it to Mike, and they'll distribute to everybody. He invited the Planning and Zoning Commission. They all want to be there. He has a solar something going in his building. He wanted us all to see it. I think he was going to invite some more town officials, but I'm doing my job by inviting you guys. So I'll make sure I get it to you guys and you can distribute it out to everybody. If it's, I think it was August 16th. It was a Wednesday night. But I told him that I would tell everybody tonight. So look for that in an email or something that'll go out. Other than that, I have nothing else. Anybody else? No? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kaderis, seconded by everybody.